I've got 3, and they're in this, so he did another one.
Alright, good to go.
Thank
To
you.
go? Okay. Good evening, folks. So we are utilizing the following for the electronic meeting to provide another means of access. Conference calls for the people who don't have the means to join via computer. The public has access to contemporaneously listen and necessary participate in this meeting by dialing toll-free phone number 844-855-4444, and upon the prompt, enter access code 145672 and push pound. By clicking on the following website address, https://join.free-conferencecalls.com/MiltonTA. The online meeting ID is MiltonTA. As the Board of Selectmen has opened the meeting to the public, this service remains as a convenience offered to those who may wish to access the live streaming meeting remotely by phone or computer to enable additional means by which the public may have access to the Select Board's meeting. So, I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we have some this is a workshop session. We have some department heads here, Pat Smith, Miss Karen Brown, and Nick Marique. And they're gonna do their budgets for us tonight. And so up first is Karen Brown.
How do you wanna do this? Just go through the slides?
Yep,
and I
yep.
run the minutes?
Yep.
Alright, so I have my mission statement on the cover, just that we're here to bring year-round affordable recreation to all our Milton and Milton Mills families in our effort to promote a happy and healthy lifestyle through programming and activities. Put my glasses on. We strive to enhance and enrich the lives of our families by offering both indoor and outdoor recreational opportunities throughout the year. Our community partnerships enable us to broaden our offerings in an effort to enhance the lives of as many residents as possible. And this is an overall look at the budget. In current year 2020, our budget is $48,651. Proposed in 2021 is $49,114. This line would increase $463 if a merit increase, if the budget passed, and we got a merit increase of 2% beginning July 2021. So the proposed salary change would go from $48,651 for the full-time director's position, and would go to $49,114, which is an increase of $463. The part-time salary line, current is $11,700, with a proposed change of $81 in 2021. I'll give an explanation. This line is to pay the wages of the Assistant Recreation Director for 6 months of the year, January through April. And then she goes off, it goes into the revolving funds until November and comes back on from November and December. And the increase would be for a 2% merit, for the last 2 months of the year. This will increase it by $81 from the 2020 budget due to the merit increase. The other 50% of the assistant pay comes from the recreation revolving accounts. And that's all through the summer when the beach is open and the summer camp is open, we draw from those revolving accounts to pay her salary. In turn, FICA would go up $33, that would be for both of us. And Medicare would increase by $7.91, and that again is for both of us. Training is currently $500, and we propose no change to that. This allows us both to go to the New Hampshire Rex and Park Association yearly conference, and whatever other trainings we can get through Primex and stuff, we go for free. Primex is a big part of this conference, and it covers all the liabilities that come up throughout the year in different events and programs you do, and what to watch for and what to watch out for.
Mm-hmm.
Uniforms, we get $125 a year, which adds up to $62.50 for both of us. We use our uniform line to purchase our own clothing and have them embroidered with the town logo on them, because the $125 would be one piece of clothing for each of us, and that would be it. So we expand it by buying our own stuff and having it embroidered. Contract services is $1. That's just an open line. Transportation is also an open line of $1. Professional services, which comes under a lot of things. We do background checks for anybody that volunteers in the department that's not associated with a program. It could be for anything. If we had trails cleaned and there were gonna be kids around and we were asking for people to help, and they were gonna be there with the kids, they would need to, we would need to make sure we knew who were around the children or the seniors. It goes both. And that line also has not changed. Electricity, we're leaving at $2,300, which is the same as 2020. I can't tell you what the current electric use is at this point, cause I didn't have a chance to look at it. Telephone stays at $835, that provides, my full-time, that provides the full-time salary, the director, with a cell phone. And also pays, 10%, I believe, or $15 stipend a month for the year for the assistant director to use her own personal phone. Printing stayed at $200, and this is for anything that isn't associated with a program, because if we do something for the seniors, or we do something for the kids' night, or all that, we take our printing costs out of those programs. So this is just for things that aren't covered, maybe Toys for Kids, for the Christmas program, or if we do any special events, a Halloween spectacular, any printing associated with that, we take out of, the printing line. Supplies is at $1,403, which is the same as it was in 2020, and this covers not only anything that's not associated with a program, but it also covers the Easter egg hunt, the Milton Halloween, the Christmas program, because we don't have a line other than our supply line to support any of the programs that we invite the residents to, that we don't have any funding associated with it. If we're not charging a fee, this is where the money comes from. Postage, $200, that covers anything we would need to mail out, and I have had issues to send, certified letters and stuff out through recreation. Operating supplies is $1, that's just an open line placeholder. Building maintenance is also a placeholder as part, Milton PDW, DPW is the one who covers the, like, grounds maintenance and mowing and all that. Grounds maintenance is covered under them as well. Any big building things, they would send the guys over to help us out. Equipment maintenance is more for, office equipment. Like if my computer monitor goes, or, the printer goes, something like that, that would be what we would get from that line. You're gonna see that same line in 2 other budgets, because 3 departments share that office space. So if we lose the printer, we're gonna need more than $250 or to replace that. Equipment purchase is the same thing. If something goes down and we can't fix it and we have to replace it, we have $200 to go towards it, no matter what it's a monitor or a calculator, or this is for anything in that office that needs to be replaced. Mileage and travel is $1,000, that is the director's stipend for not getting a town vehicle, and it goes for wear and tear on my vehicle and gasoline throughout the year for all the things I do in recreation. Dues and subscriptions is $70, and that is to pay for our, annual membership fees in New Hampshire Parks and Rec Association, which gives us all kinds of support throughout the year. Miscellaneous, just an open line in case we need it. And so the overall budget will go up $584.91, and that is if the budget passes and we get the 2% merits. So the proposed budget for 2021 is $73,240. And that is that for that budget.
Okay. Any questions? All set?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving right along. Good job.
How do you go to the next presentation? This is three. You have to go back down to the right and flip slide. All right, this is the supervisor. The supervisor of the checklist. This is just overall look, and as you can see, the salaries are a good portion of them, of the fees attached. No, I think I lost the slide. I didn't. I don't know how I did that. I'm gonna have to go through to another line. Looks like I lost the budget. I can give you the total budget is going from $3,497.40 to propose to $36,2570, which is a difference of $228, and I'll go back and explain that. I had a nice breakdown, I don't know where it went. It's not there, of how it's figured out, so off the top of my head, since I just did this,
Do you want it?
actually I have a,
Do you want this?
I have one. I don't know what happened to that slide. Alright, so, the breakdown, so we're gonna have two elections in 2021. One is the town meeting. So if you multiply 3 supervisors by 1085 for 12 hours each, it's 130.20, which multiply that by 3 is 390.60, and then I put aside 25 hours to work on updating the checklist, and a primary is a lot more expensive than a regular election because you have a lot more steps to it. You have to go back and switch people back, and so it comes out to $661.85 per election, and then we're putting aside for a special election because if you don't, I have a funny feeling there will be one in 2021 just because of the upcoming election series. I can't. And then in 2021, we also have to do a checklist purge. I put away 40 hours per supervisor at a cost of $434 for each one of us times 3 for $1,302, which gave us a total of $26,2570 for the supervisor's salaries. I have no idea if 40 hours per supervisor is going to be enough, because I called the Secretary of State's office and they said until after the November election, we have no idea who doesn't meet the criteria of voting in the last 4 elections, and that's the criteria. If you have on my checklist and you have not voted the last 4 cycles of elections, then we have to send you a letter. You respond. If you don't respond and we get the letters back, we have to do another step to verify that you really aren't a Milton resident, just didn't not return the letter. I think it goes out certified after that. If that again comes back, then you get taken off the checklist. But that's the only legal way I can remove anybody's name off the checklist. So that brought me almost to exactly, it's minus 2170 from last year's, even though this year's had more elections in it. With the added task of purging the checklist, it's gonna come in just relatively close. My printing line stayed exactly the same, I'll go back, as 2020. My office supplies were leaving at $200 as well. Postage, I have increased by $250, which again, I have no idea if it's gonna be enough or not, but I have nothing to gauge this on. We have over 3,300 registered voters right now. If I have to send, that's just, a guesstimation, if I have to send 500 letters, that would be an increase of $250 to that line. If I have to send 1,000 letters out, I'm gonna be sorely under budgeted for it, but we don't have a choice. We have to do the purge. It's, you know, whatever it costs, it's gonna cost us. So this is a good guesstimation of what we're looking at for price. Equipment maintenance is the same thing, $100, I left it there. If the computer, I've got a laptop computer, there's different things that if something goes wrong and I have to have it serviced, that's where that money's coming from. And equipment purchase would be combined with the, trustees' money as well, if we had to replace a piece of equipment in the, rec office downstairs. Mileage and travel is $100, and that just covers, basically, that's gonna cover if we have to run back and forth to Concord, or just the general postings and all the things we're gonna have to do. So the total budget I'm asking for is $36,2570, which is a difference of $228.30 from last year's budget.
Okay. Any questions, Matt? Claudine? Okay.
I'll fix that up before we do the big presentation, I have it all nicely. I don't know where I went.
Things
Did
happen.
transfer. Trustees of the trust fund, we're staying flat from last year. The only thing I would like to increase is the elected salary of the bookkeeper, but I'm not sure this is the year to do that. So I left it at $2,300. She has not had an increase in her pay for 7, 8, 9 years, and she still does it. So, FICA was $144, Medicare $35. We have no training in our line for the trustees of the trust funds. We should, I wrote a little, this should be increased to cover the cost of the new trustees' manuals and to cover the cost of the annual trustees' training. It was proposed to add $225 in 2019, but the budget did not pass. Currently, there is no funds available for trustees to attend the training or to buy updated materials in this budget. Printing $200, that covers anything that we have to, covers the monthly reports, anything that we have to post, our meetings, all that. Office supplies is $200, that's the same thing. Ink, anything we need to buy folders or binders and things that we have to have in a nice, neat order to present to the auditors and stuff. Those have to be kept in order, and then the files, we need to maintain the files of downstairs as well. Postage, I left at $50, this covers anything that we have to send out to, I don't know if it actually covers that, but that's what we left it at $50 because we send a lot of stuff to the investors by mail. Equipment maintenance, that would be combined with anything that needed to be updated, in the office that we use. And equipment purchase is the same thing. If I lose my computer or monitor or anything that we use for office equipment down there, this would just be used in combination with the other two budgets. It gives us a little bit of money if something goes wrong. Mileage and travel, again, it's $100, for anything we need to incur during our elected roles as, trustees. And that is it. So the proposed budget is exactly what it was, $32.90.
Good.
Good?
Good.
And I'll fix that slide. Oh, Jason total. Oh, that's an extra slide that I didn't delete. So no increase. You wanna back this out, Ernie, without you just yanking it out?
Just a quick
I'll
question.
answer any questions you have.
Yeah. Just a quick question, this
Sure.
would be for Ernie too. Could she use, the capital improvement plan for under the technology line if she needed to, for for any purchases down there?
Well, I mean, I think the technology line is for larger amounts, you know, for larger dollar purchases and that. You know, trying to chip away at it for, you know, $100 here and $150 there. I mean, I wouldn't encourage that, but I mean, I'm not sure, you know, unless there's a hard and fast rule on it. Your CIP has a definition, I think, of minimum of, I think it's $15,000, isn't it? Do you remember? Is
I
that
believe it's 10
10? Okay.
for the CIP.
But that's, you know, so the budget, the items that are budgeted for there, are for larger items. I mean, we did use it last year to update, I think we replaced 12 computers, maybe 10 computers here that were, you know, about to lose, their operating systems were about to go out of date, and they all need to be replaced, but the total amount that was spent for that was about $12,000 total. So I mean, that, we justified it as being a large, dollar amount, even though there were several, discrete purchases that were about $1,000 apiece, you know, so.
The thing is too, if you need a paper shredder, you're not gonna go to a capital improvement plan for a paper shredder. It's, none of them are nominal, they're 200, 150, I didn't go
No, I was
hog
just,
wild.
just a question.
Yeah, these are truly maintenance items that are needed.
Yeah, all right, I'm good. Thank you,
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
good job.
If I'm not using them like that. It's been a long enough day already.
Marcus?
Okay,
Oh, yes, I know, I gotta fix that slide, thank you.
We just plug yours right in.
okay, who's up next?
I am.
Flip a coin, all right, go.
Well, I don't know, you wanna go for that?
It'll be a while.
I might be a while too.
Okay.
HDMI or? Oops. All right. Look at this. So this is the breakdown of the increase summary. So obviously, utilities, vehicle fuel, and all the other lines have negative increases. I tried to shave where I could to offset the obviously large personnel cost increase that we have coming, which we'll get into that here shortly. So this is the 5-year, it's actually might be 6-year, including 2021 proposed costs for running the entire department. That includes the bond payments for the fire station, capital reserve amounts, which you can see nothing past last year, and I put 40,000 in, which was the amount that we asked for last year as a placeholder for the coming year.
So Nick, just so you know, for some reason yours is not now transmitting on camera 3.
Okay.
Huh.
You want me to try it on the other computer? I have it on my,
Yeah, you might want to if you wanna have it on.
I don't, it's up to you. Where's the other computer? Oh, I didn't use this one. USB been showing up already? D?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. So, to quickly summarize, that's the decreases in all the lines except the personnel costs, and as you can see, I shaved where I could to offset that increase on the personnel costs. And we were talking about the 6-year total cost to operate the department. Health insurance, I didn't have the exact numbers going back, but that was the number, I think, in 2019 for a single plan and a buyout, and now I have 2 buyouts, so that cost has come down, or will come down. So, as you can see, that was fairly level, but that didn't mean there was an increased cost. So, this is the revolving account, which is not part of the operating budget, but covers about 50% of the total cost of running the department. And as you can see, from 2013 to 2020, the operating costs grow pretty substantially. So, I've been keeping the fire department budget level by transferring stuff to the revolving account, increasing our staffing needs by transferring stuff to the revolving account as our operating, or as our income increases. The reason for the increase in the operating budget is, as you can see, we're kind of backwards this year. Operating expenses are higher than income. So we need to get some of that back to the actual fire department operating budget, which I've been saying for probably 3 years that what we're doing is not sustainable, but it's getting us by. And the spike, the green, is the purchase of an ambulance, which we also do from this ambulance revolving account. Any questions on that for now?
I'm good.
So the budget breaks down 73% personnel costs, and as you can see, the entire rest of the budget is relatively small per category. So we'll get right into it. The 21 request for the full-time salary, there's 2 full-time employees, is $142,470. In February, we lost an employee to another municipality, and we were able to hire one with experience from another municipality. So that new employee made more than the outgoing employee, and we did a wage adjustment, and we also added, we went from a 42 to a 48-hour work week for the 2 full-time employees. So we did that basically to provide consistency. Scheduling and working with a large pool of per diem and part-time employees is rather difficult. So by taking 12 hours out of the per diem pool and transferring it to the full-time pool, eliminated at least 1 shift a week where we have a part-time person without increasing the benefits that go along with adding full-time people. So it's strictly salary, not retirement, or not health insurance and everything else. So we started that in February, I believe, and this is gonna be reflected in the 2021 budget. The part-time salary, so here's one of the changes. 20 request, that should be 21 request, is 115, and last year we had 80,000. So that's the part-time salary for the assistant chief, all the call firefighters when they come back for calls, and I put 2 24-hour positions in there. Again, that's to relieve the revolving account, which has taken the brunt of positions currently. But there's another line we'll get into further down, 961, which was covering the on-call stipends for everybody at night, that will cover one of those positions. And then the decrease in callbacks or volunteers coming back has freed up a little bit of money so that those two positions it's not the full amount for those two positions that are going into that budget. It's offset a little bit, and there's $9,000 basically is what the increase is to get two positions in there. Does that make sense? Follow that? Yes?
I do.
Okay. And that does include the 2% pay increase for all the call firefighters and everybody that's paid on a part-time basis. So that's basically step one in relieving the revolving account from being overexpended into the future. Salary
Alright,
elected.
so before we move on, cause I'm gonna be right up front with you, looking at Pat's budget, your budget. It's not gonna pass, simple, okay? So moving forward, if, you know, you bring this budget to the taxpayers, and unfortunately it fails, cause you know historically, it always has, when the budgets are up, and they're not below the default, I'm just
Yeah.
being very upfront.
Yep.
So how are you gonna continue with this, the way you're going?
I always make it work. One way or the other, we'll just continue to deplete the revolving account. The fact of the matter is I have to provide the service
so-
that I'm providing, and we have a means to do it. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I mean, why don't you, I mean, maybe, I don't know, like your little character says there, we need to think of some creative solutions here.
If you think I haven't
And
thought of creative
fast.
solutions,
No, this is just
I don't-
conversation, Nick.
I don't know what to tell you, Andy. All I'm telling you is, for 3 or 4 years now, I've tried to level fund the budget, and I've been fairly successful, but I've said it time and time again when we do this budget presentation. You can only squeeze the balloon in so many spots before it pops, and I've squeezed it for 3 years, so I'm asking for what I need. And I'm not even really asking for what I need. I'm asking for what I can get by with to point us in the right direction instead of the wrong direction.
So out of the 40 on-call firefighters, average how many show up to calls?
Not enough.
Well, just give a number.
Depending on the call, depending on the time of day, it could be 8, it could be 2, it could be 3. And that's
So
the
should-
reason that
Shouldn't we try and cut that 40 down a bit, so that way we're not, unless I'm understanding it wrong, but
they're
aren't
not
we,
paid unless they respond. So
right, but you're still setting the money aside, right? Basically.
no, you go to, you have the budget packet in front of you?
Yeah, I got yours right here.
So go to page, I'll tell you how I figured it out.
Okay.
Page 6. And this kind of goes into explaining how some of that other money became available without the full increase. So if you look at the salary for the call firefighters on the chart,
Yeah.
July 16 to 17, we spent $44,000 on firefighters coming off duty back for calls. And then, as you can see,
17, 18 went down.
down to $25,000.
Yeah.
So, and we've kept that budget line pretty much the same. So now I'm taking the difference, and I'm using that for a part-time position to relieve it from the revolving account.
Okay.
So, and I would love to cut that back down, because then we're not outfitting and everything like that. But the problem is, it's not the same ones that show up all the time. Availability is all over the place. There's some that work nights, there's some that work days. If it was the same 5 people that showed up all the time, day and night, I'd get rid of the 25 that never showed up at all. But Unfortunately, it takes 40 to get the job done,
Mhm.
and really it would take 60, but there's not 60 available to get what I would like and where we were 10, 15 years ago. But that goes back to this little guy right here and this little cartoon character is volunteerism is down the toilet, or in this case, in the trash can. And it's not just here. We're doing okay in comparison to a lot of other communities. Wakefield has 7 full-time people now. We had full-time people in Milton before they did in Wakefield. Farmington does everything with per diem staff, but they've been trying. They're in a similar budget situation as us. They've been trying to get full-time staffing, and they can't do it. But there's consequences that go along with that, and scheduling and staffing a larger pool of per diem people is an extreme challenge. They have full-time jobs they're contending around, and it's just, we'll do it as long as we can. But we need to kind of have a plan to go in a different direction if what we're doing stops working.
Right.
And I'm constantly, changing the way we're staffing. 5 years ago, everybody was covering from home, and they were doing it for $5 an hour. Then you lose one critical person that covered 50% of the nights, or somebody moves out of town because they can't find housing in Milton, which, honest to God, is probably my biggest problem, that people live in town, ready to move to different housing, and can't find housing in town. They move to New Durham, they move to Middleton, they move wherever. They can't find apartments here. A lot of the kids can't find housing here. They go to school. It's just people constantly moving, and the housing situation here in Milton is not helping the fire department. But anyway, a little
Right.
off topic.
Okay.
Salary, fire chief hasn't changed. I don't believe it's my position to ask for an increase, so you can do with that as you see fit. FICA, it's up $588. That's based on those other lines increasing. Medicare, same, $499 based on those lines increasing. New Hampshire retirement system, that's up $7,638 based on the increase that we talked about for the full-time salary. That's mandatory. It's not an option, state law. And this is the first full year at 30.09%. Last year it was split, I believe, or the year before it was split. But anyway, it's down a little bit, 1% or so. And that's different than the police retirement percentage, which is also different than the DPW and town hall employees. I don't know why. It's like 1% off from police and 10%. Or you guys are 11, right? 11 and change? Training stays the same. That covers new certifications, continuing education, conferences. We haven't spent a whole lot of that this year for obvious reasons. Everything's shut down. The fire academy was closed for several months. So that line is sufficiently funded, and we can, as long as we can maintain it, we'll be good. Employee testing. This covers background checks for new employees. The Bureau of EMS now requires anybody that gets a new EMS license to have a background check done, regardless of if they've had it done through the municipality before they were hired. And same thing with anybody that's lapsed, that's been an EMS provider, even if they've been with the same municipality. What it doesn't cover, and I charge to that line, is medical screening for new hires, and we only do full-time employees currently. Eventually, we should be doing part-time and call and volunteer firefighters. But that's a substantial cost that we don't have right now. And it's not a requirement, it's just a strong recommendation. So uniforms covers gear and duty uniforms. And I found that little character there. Those obviously aren't the exact prices that we pay, but it gives you a pretty good idea. It's about $2,500 for a coat and pants that we pay. which is obviously quite a bit more than that character. But anyway, total cost to outfit is listed as 10,000. That's pretty accurate. I did not request an increase. I've left that line level funded, even though it's probably, I didn't really compensate for any increased costs this year. But like I said, I was trying to keep it down wherever I could because my priority is staffing. In reality, that I had that up to 21 when I first started putting this together. But we'll make that work too. Contract services, there's a breakdown in the budget packet, what went up and what went down, but the change is $92. Some of the stuff, the website, the department website and the department pay clock system is now part of the bigger town contract. And a few subscriptions and memberships went up a small amount, so it basically ends up being neutral. Electric, we have to keep the lights on. So now that I have good historical data, I shaved $250 out of that line. And in the packets you can see the running tally for every single month since we've been in the station. And I just averaged out. It's actually been coming down. If you look at the monthly charges at the beginning, and I think some of that probably has to do with getting the heating system squared away last year. Heat, I left the same. I figured that number last year based on the contractual agreement with Eastern, how many gallons and then how much fuel oil we used at Station 2. We're trending okay to keep that line the same this year. I put the price in the write-up there, but I think it's down, like propane's down 10 cents a gallon or something like that. What was the contract for oil pad, do you remember?
$1.69
Is that up or down?
down.
So we'll leave it the same. If you look at the averages on my chart, it actually comes out to closer to like 11.5 or something like that, but the more recent years I think we'll be fine. That's for the domestic water at the station. And again, some of these lines I tried to cut last year, but because of the default they ended up the same as the previous year. So that's down $500 based on usage and a good run of data now. Hydrant fees, that's paid to the water district for the use of the fire hydrants. And that's about how much water comes out of them. I'm not kidding. Telephone, another line I tried to cut last year. We shut the line off at Station 2 to try to save some money, so that saved us $450. And then when I just look at the landline data, I cut another $20 out. So that includes the iPads that are in the ambulances and the hotspots that are in the ambulances, the internet at the station, and the landline at the station. There's no cell phones at all on that plan, or in that line. But the iPads are for doing our report. Everything is done online. Instead of paper documentation, it all gets uploaded to the system so they can do the reports when they get back. And the data hotspots are for the cardiac monitors to transmit EKGs to the hospitals. Public education, $600. We've had that line for years now. Basically, it's for the little handouts for Fire Prevention Week at the school and the stuff we hand out at Woods Water and Wildlife Festival. And any costs of books for CPR classes when we have to provide masks if we do a class. Printing, that covers the color copy contract at the station. We have one central printer there, and we get billed quarterly. And then any stationery that we need, letterhead, envelopes, that type of stuff, so it's $100 for that. And that's down $100. Supplies, again, I tried to cut that last year. And that's based on basically bulk buying with having room at the new station. there was some things that we were buying at the old station that were specifically for the old station that we no longer needed. Filters for the old exhaust system were relatively expensive. And again, based on what I've been using, I'm comfortable dropping 1,000 out of that. Vehicle fuel, again, I have one of those charts in there that shows the historical usage, so I took $250 out of that. As long as fuel prices remain the same, we'll be fine. Diesel fuel, I took $12.50 out of that. So last year or the year before, 2018, we were overspent in that line by, I don't know, a few $100, $1,000, and that's when diesel prices were starting to go up. So I created a new account with WEX for the ambulances to be charged to, so that diesel for the ambulances now gets charged to the ambulance revolving account, and then the fire apparatus fuel gets charged to this. So as the prices fluctuated, that's where it landed 2 years after I made the transfer. So building maintenance, there's an increase here. I'm not really sure it's enough, but Pat takes care of most of the building maintenance, but there's a few like service testing things that need to get done. It's just easier to have a line right there. That way I can call the people up, I can charge it, I get the invoice. They're pretty fixed costs, and they need to be done. The other thing in there that we need to do, and it either needs to go here or in Pat's budget, is cleaning out the catch basins. Now that we have, what's that? MS4, they need to be vacuumed out. We've tried to do it ourselves before, but it basically took all day with a little coal shovel. It's not very productive. So some of that increase will cover that. But if anything else, like this year there was a $900 overhead door sensor that broke, and that got charged to that line, so it's probably overspent by now. But like I said, one way or the other, either Pat's needs to go up or we need to, where did we go here? We need to maintain this one and slowly increase it as we realize costs. Vehicle maintenance, this is the one the budget committee tried to increase last year, and it's been overspent pretty much every year by $4,000 to $6,000. We end up spending around $20,000 to $21,000. The average age of the fleet is up to 14 years old now. The oldest vehicle is 30 years old. The reason I didn't increase it, even though I had the support of the budget committee last year, was because my priority is the staffing. So I couldn't put another $5,000 to $6,000 in this line in good conscience without asking for the staffing that I needed. And trust me, I had heartache over the $38,000 increase as it is presented now. So another $5,000, I understand, Andy. Trust me, I get it. But
No, I know, it's a question.
but we do have the vehicle maintenance capital reserve worst case scenario, and I've been able to basically manage it through cutting other lines to cover the overage in this particular line. So this is a breakdown for this year and last year. So as you can see, last year engine 6 was our biggest expense, and that is our newest lead engine. This year, engine 3, which is our mutual aid truck and our second newest piece, took the lion's share of the costs. But other than that, it's divided fairly evenly. Last year, I don't know, thought it was kind of neat that it's not necessarily the oldest vehicle, it's not necessarily the same vehicle, and they all, different years, take bigger chunks. So equipment maintenance, that covers the small engine repairs, the forestry pumps. Air packs have to have annual service testing, extrication tools. The hose gets tested annually by a third-party company. That's about $2,500 of that $75. Air packs are over $1,000. Even though they're new, the company needs to come in. They need to certify them every single year. Prior to getting the new air packs, when they came to do that, the maintenance that they found during the service testing was equal to or more than the actual service testing. So we will save that cost into the future, but that line's been right around that amount for several years, and I'm comfortable leaving it there. Equipment purchase, I'm keeping it the same. We need two more trucks to replace the 4-inch supply line. That's gonna be $4,000. So that'll be broken up over 2 years. Last year, we replaced $10,000 worth of attack line, and that came from surplus money from the airpack grant. So that put us in a good position, but it didn't put us ahead.
Mm-hmm.
We still have 2.5 from the 1980s, and prior to this year, I had not bought any hose, 1 3/4 hose since, or Andy was the last one, and that's been 10 plus years, and I bought 2.5 my first year. I only bought enough to do 1 truck, so all our hose prior to the 10,000 we bought last winter is all 10 plus years old, and that's the life expectancy in the NFPA service life of it, or the recommended NFPA service life of it. Obviously, we have stuff from the 80s that still works, but if something were to happen, that's another story. But we'll keep that the same. I just can't afford to lose anything out of that line, or else it'll put us behind. Equipment lease, I tried to cut that last year. That was the copy machine that we have, or the printer at the station that I talked about earlier. We paid it off, so that amount can come out. This is the part-time EMS on-call. That was a voted on warrant article in 2008, and again in 2009. That line basically stayed $26,000 for the last 11 years. We covered it a few different ways. Like I said, originally it was nights and weekends when the full-time staff wasn't at the station. Then it turned into nights, and then we changed it again to a bigger stipend when they were at the station. We've been spending around $35,000 out of that account and covering it from other spots. But now, with the new payroll system that we have and the way things are going, it's just a lot easier to put it all into a part-time line for bookkeeping purposes and simplicity, as opposed to trying to figure out what gets charged where. And back to that guy again. So this is the breakdown of the revolving account. I'm planning on spending about $215,000 out of that for staffing, and then you can see everything else is all specifically ambulance related, is what we're allowed to charge that. So maintenance has to do with like maintenance of the cardiac monitor. Contract services, we have a contract with the cardiac monitor company to come out and service it every year, and it also comes with an extended warranty. EMS training, we charge that line when I don't have enough in the fire budget line. But like I said, we brought in $236,000 last year, and we're trending just under that, but it varies month to month. We could have a month where we bring in $25,000, we can have a month where we bring in $5,000, so there's no good way to track the trends other than year over year, and year over year we've been slowly increasing. A lot of it has to do with insurance, a lot of it has to do with collections and where we're going.
How much do we have in that account towards a new ambulance when the time?
Right now there's like $170,000, but I don't think the second quarter has been taken out yet, last I checked. So I'm guessing there's a balance of 105, 110.
And that's building, that's progressively building up?
It
for
had
wh-
been until this year.
Okay, cause
So like I
that's,
said, we're projecting to be flip-flop this year.
right,
But again,
and that's an issue.
the other thing that I did not take into account is the gopher money
Mhm.
is offsetting the night cost currently because it's tied to, the reason we went to paying at night is because of the risks that went along with the COVID and the lack of people available to work for a stipend rate and a whole other paragraph that I tied to it,
Mhm.
which Ernie has and submitted and was approved by the state. So we got the first 7,000 haven't submitted. So that'll come back to that. So that's the reason we jumped into it mid-year, is because we had the justification of the need, because the alternative was not staffing the ambulance. So that's,
But unfortunately, moving forward, I mean, it's really not what that was, that, you know, to pay our staff out of the revolving account, really, I mean,
it's gotten us, so we've been doing this for 10 years and it's kept us afloat.
Mhm.
Every time.
eventually though, it's not.
Every time we have a system in place that's working and we're staffing it, and as I start to see it trend off and open shifts become available and a change in personnel that makes things no longer work, we have the revolving account to fall back on to basically crutch us up to get us through another year.
Mhm.
And then something happens and then, okay, this changed again, this person moved, now we don't have these people here and there, and
Mhm.
we need to do something different. And it's
No, I know,
crutched us through for 10 years
yeah,
to the point where we're covering everything, we're doing what we need to do, we're where we need to be for the most part, staffing wise. It's just a matter of where we're funding it from and what's sustainable and what's not sustainable.
right.
And another year of not asking for money will put us too exponentially behind when we come time to look for a new ambulance. So one of the alternatives is we can not plan on buying an ambulance with this money and ask for a warrant article, and then that'll free up money in the revolving account, or we can put the money in the budget and continue to you know, use the revolving account.
Right.
So like I
Or-
said, you squeeze in a balloon and it's gotta
Right.
go somewhere.
Or we have to ask the taxpayers moving forward, you know, what do you wanna do, what do you wanna do, what do you wanna see here? I mean, trust me, for me, this is priceless. I mean, I've used the
Well, I bet.
ambulance, I've used the fire station, and I get it.
Look
But-
at, go
but-
to the back of the packet. Maybe not the back, stand by. I bring up, I have my computer. So page 4. So you could see I have, when we were at the old station, it took 10.5 minutes to get the ambulance on the road in the middle of the night. And now in the middle of the night, when the station's staffed, it takes us 3 minutes and 23 seconds to get the ambulance on the road. And your on-scene, your average on-scene time is 7.5 minutes now, as opposed to, in 2016, the average on-scene time was 15 plus minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could see, based on how I changed the staffing models, how that all changed. Like in 2018, half the people were staying at home, half the people were staying at the station. So that middle of the night response time was higher. And then in 2019, more people started staying at the station. So that kind of leveled that out a little bit. And then in 2020, since March, since the COVID happened, I'm requiring everybody to stay at the station. And during the day, it takes about 2.5 minutes to get.
Right. No, I'm just
The
saying,
apparatus on the road.
I'm just saying, you know, with
And a lot of that, honestly though, is with the dispatch center, we're not allowed to sign on till after the second tone. So they're already on the road, and then they start announcing the second bit of information, which has more. So they talk for another 30 seconds before the ambulance or the apparatus is then allowed to say, hey, we're en route, and they're already a minute off the road or whatever.
Mhm.
So it's less, but just, I gotta go by the data that I have.
okay. Alright,
Any questions? I mean, I know it's not pretty, but I'm just being honest with everybody.
right. You know, and I'm just being kinda honest with you. I mean, well, I don't have to be, 'cause you know, I mean, we're all taxpayers in this room, other than Ernie. And, I just, I know if the budget's, I don't know, last time it was, if it's over $100, it's gonna fail. Now, and unfortunately, when it fails, you know, the morale goes down, no raises, and it's just a vicious cycle. And
We just gotta figure out what our priorities are.
well, and that's where I was going with this. I mean, we need to act, I mean, if the taxpayers, you know, want, you know, a cheap tax rate, well, unfortunately, there's gonna have to be some services cut, because you just don't get a cheap tax rate with you know, with a great service. So that's it in a nutshell, really. So I guess it's just educating the people and being transparent.
Any other questions?
Yep. That's it.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Can I just, how's this work? I don't know, trying to reject it, but I guess I'm good.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too. All right, Mr. Smith.
Love to stay back, but.
That one?
Start with the smallest, huh, Pat?
Excuse me?
Start with the smallest?
Yeah, it's the one I have on here first. Government buildings. Get all my paperwork sorted here. Mess something up, Ernie. Mess something up. Get back to it. Okay, government buildings. As you can see, 58% of our government buildings budget is full-time salary. And then you can also look through the rest of the breakdown throughout. And maintenance, government buildings maintenance is 12.67%. Contract services 10.16, electric is 4.5, FICA is 3.6, supplies 2.3, vehicle fuels is 2.28, heat 2.2, water 1.5, and everything else is under 1%. So currently, in the government buildings default salary line is 105.08. What this line is it covers 2 full-time government buildings and grounds workers, and also a full-time cleaner. It also allows for, $7,000 in overtime. That overtime is for plowing, snow removal downtown, and that covers 2 positions. So the 7,000 is for the 2 full-time, grounds workers. We are requesting 114,932. Now this is based upon, in 2019, the Board of Selectmen, gave, Public Works, all Public Works, I'm talking about 3 departments, highway, government buildings, and solid waste, an increase in their pay in 2019. Unfortunately, with the default budget that passed, last year, those, increases in that salary line did not get to go into the default budget. So what we're trying to do is make up for the loss of last year's budget, which is the default. Plus we're asking for a step increase based upon the step plan that the Board of Selectmen approved in March of 2019, which is a new step plan that they agreed to do, last year. So that increase of $9,924 is based upon the money that didn't get put in the default budget, plus the step increase that we're asking for next year's budget. Is that clear? Does everybody understand what I'm trying to say there? And if you wanna ask questions on the line as I go on, I don't have a problem with that, so if you wanna just stop and talk about it, it's fine with me, okay? So here's a government building's, full-time salary breakdown. You have the 2 crew members that mow and plow and take care of stuff. That is their starting rates, their new projected rates. January 1st through June 31st, that's the amount they would make based upon the start rate. July 1st through December 31st of next year, that's what they would make for the second 6 months, with a total of, at the end, is what they would make annually. And then you got the total for the 3 positions, plus the 7,000 overtime, gives you the 114,931.20.
Right now, though, you're down a guy, right?
Excuse me?
You're down a guy on the on this government buildings.
Yes, I only have 1 full-time person right now, and I have the custodian. I've been down a guy, most of, probably half a year close to that.
Okay.
Part-time salary line is $1, but you'll probably see in this year's default budget, if you're looking at the expenditure list, is where we were down a person. We ended up bringing in a part-time person to work for May and June to help clean up, get memorial, get the cemeteries ready for, the holiday, and catch up on some grass, mowing grass and stuff. And then at the end of June or the first part of July, that person was all done and is no longer here. So I only worked a couple of months. So I left that $1 in that line, just in case there is an emergency. That line's open and I can use that line, and I'll show the expenditures for that line. Even though it'll go in a negative, you'll see that there was activity. It's just kinda, it's the way I think I'm being transparent, is to show you, yeah, we used that line, but we didn't have any money for it, but we had to use it. Here's why. FICA also, an increase based upon the step increases due to the step plan. That's an increase of $615 over last year. Medicare, the same thing, due to the step plan increase, $144 increase. Uniforms, there's no change in that, it's $450 in that. And what that is that is money to help provide the cost of safety shoes. We give $150 for your requirement for safety shoes, they get $150. One time, a year. Contract services, this is used to pay contract services required by the department, such as, grub control on the ball fields in the Veterans Park, pre-emergent weed control. Also, we pay the pumping of all town septic tanks, annually. It's also for boiler maintenance in all town buildings. It is, for the quality fire protection, which is your fire extinguishers in all town buildings. The New Hampshire, elevator certificate and the elevator testing. It also is for JP pest control in all town buildings for, rodents and ants and such. We also have, a contract to sharpen our blades for our mowers. The police department generator maintenance and cleaning. We have $6,500 set aside for ball field maintenance. We haven't used that as much as we probably should, but it's one thing I hold back on if I don't have to use it. And then the lift maintenance contract, that is for the library's, handicap lift, the outdoor handicap lift.
Now, who do you guys pay for your grub control, your pre-emergent,
We're using urban.
urban?
Yeah.
You guys can't do that yourselves?
Are we what?
You guys can't do that yourselves?
We're not licensed.
Does a municipality have to be licensed though? Oh, you do?
Nobody's licensed to do it. Anything else on that one?
I'm good.
And again, here's a list of the cost of the services and who we use and what it's for, and it comes to the, 20,054, and, there's no, I flatlined it. Anything that I could flatline in this budget, I did, because unfortunately I realized that the salaries and the wage and the, increases that we got is where we have to make it up. And to try to stay within the 2% tax cap and a 2% increase, there's absolutely no way I can do that. There's no way. I just can't do it. I'll have to make that money up someplace. It's just not gonna come to me. It has to be done, something done somewhere along the line.
Well, how
So-
about, maybe on your full-time, maybe having a part-time, and I know it's tough, you can't even get a full-timer, but, you know, you've had one full-timer already doing the job, maybe things aren't getting done, you know, to where people normally see it, but that comes, you know, along with, you know, this is what's gonna happen.
Right. And listen, I appreciate that thought, and I'm all set with whatever you guys wanna do, but here's the facts. The facts is that in all three of my budgets, as you stated earlier, you said, well, with the increase in highway and fire, this is not gonna pass. You don't even know the anguish I went through putting these budgets together, cause I already know that.
Mhm.
I already know this is not gonna happen.
Right.
Okay, I've already been frozen one person in highway, you froze me one in government buildings, I'm down one in solid waste. That's the only saving grace you have this year, is we didn't have anybody to do the work. So we're not doing half of the stuff that we normally would do.
Mhm.
So the fact of the matter is this, if you funded every one of these positions in my budgets, all three of my budgets, right, you're gonna make up about $80,000. That wasn't in last year's default budget, which is what I'm trying to do this year, is to make up for the loss that I had last year because it didn't get put in the default budget. Okay, so now we're juggling, we're robbing from Peter to pay Paul, it's only gonna last so long.
Mhm.
So here's what really needs to happen, okay? We either need to correct these budgets and get them where they need to be, which we already know will probably be a default, or you need to have a plan. As a board of selectmen, you can come up with a plan. What are you gonna do? What is your priority in this town? What departments do you want to run at full strength, and what do you not want to run at full strength? Do you wanna plow roads like we plow roads? Do you wanna mow grass like we mow grass? Do you wanna clear sidewalks? What do you want? This is where we're at. I mean, I give you a budget based upon what the people ask for services in this town. regardless of what there is for money in this budget, the phone rings, how come you're not doing this, how come you're not doing that, or we need this done or we need that done. What needs to happen is, the Board of Selectmen have to come out and state, this is what we're gonna do, and this is how we're gonna do it, and the rest of us are gonna need to do it. All the department heads need to do it. There has to be a plan. We can't go like this no more. I can't go like this no more. I have 2 guys in highway. If I keep have 2 guys in highway come winter time, what are you gonna do? Right? We're gonna plow roads. We're all gonna be out there plowing roads, but it ain't gonna get done as fast as it did if I had 4 guys in trucks. It's just not gonna happen. So we're at that point where something has to be done, and it's gotta come from you guys. I can't do anything about any of this stuff. You have to set the policy. You have to tell the departments what you want them to do, all of us. Are we gonna like it? Nope. Probably not. I understand what's going on by looking at the numbers. I know what's happening. And I know that we can't stay with our heads above water if we continue on the path that we're on right here, what I'm showing you here tonight. I don't wanna raise these budgets. You look at my history, you'll see that my budgets have been flatlined for almost 10 years with very little increases, because that's what I try to do, is keep my budget down there. With the raises and with the employment problems that the town's running into, and you can't bring people in for $10 an hour anymore. You can't bring people in, you're just not gonna get them. I got a highway job up there that'll pay anywhere from $18 to $25 an hour, and I don't get nothing. They're not knocking our door down to come to work. So, again, I think a plan needs to be put in place with Board of Selectmen and the department heads, and we have to make some serious tough choices. Do we wanna continue throwing these budgets at the people? They already spoke last year, they said no. They said no. Cut the services down, or cut your employees, cut them. You gotta do one or the other. You can't keep going like this.
Mhm.
Just can't do it.
No, I agree with you.
You know, but there's no plan. Nobody's saying anything. We just keep coming in with the same numbers year after year, saying this is what I need if I'm gonna provide the services that you're asking me to provide, and then I get slammed no, and I get a default, and I gotta step there and go, what the heck am I gonna do now? I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I don't usually come in and speak like this in a presentation. I just like to be professional, but the time has come that you guys gotta hear it. You gotta hear what's really going on in these departments, and it's not good. It's just not good. So, thank you for letting me do that. Professional services, I leave it open for $1, just so that it's open. Electricity, current year is $9,600, that was the default. We figured it out with what we're saving, I think, on the lights. We can drop it down 600, and this is for town hall. This line pays for town hall, it pays for the townhouse, and it pays for all the parks, like the Dam Park and Wamback Dam and Veterans Park. It pays for all of that stuff. So that covers a variety of different accounts. Heating, again, that's a $1,000 decrease in the line, and that's due to the fact that we negotiated a lower price for oil. So based on usage, $1.69 a gallon, we come up with $4,500, and this is just for town hall. That's just for town hall, no other building. Water, also again, we decreased that line by $27.50, and that's just based upon the data that we're getting for the bills that we're paying. So I can't see keeping it at $57.50 if we can get away with $3,000. Unless they go up with their fees, which I haven't heard anything, so I felt comfortable decreasing that. Supplies is a $2,500 increase over 2020. 2020 was $2,112. We've gone up to $4,612, and that's because of the supplies we're using now to clean the police station and the fire station and Public Works Town Hall. We also have added some different things that we do by spraying, fogging the town hall and different workspaces that we never had to do before. So we've picked up a little bit of extra stuff on that. And it's not too bad, and if we can, and we shop around, so we're always looking online, Amazon or wherever we can buy supplies at a cheaper cost that we work at as best we can. Postage is $10, there's no increase. Vehicle fuel, I increased it to 500, and that was because last year we used pickups to plow more than we did dump trucks because they were broke down more. We only had a half a fleet on for dump trucks most of the time, so it was just an increase in fuel last year, and if that happens again this year, I'll need that. So I increased it based upon that fact. And also that gasoline covers lawnmowers and weed whackers and, you know, everything else in the grounds and buildings, job description. Building maintenance, 20,000, I increased it to 25. The line increase is due to taking the $5,000, if you look down the budget, there's a line for $5,000 for cemetery maintenance. I took that out and put that back up into government buildings maintenance. It's just easier to use all in one line instead of trying to use two lines to do the same job. It's still there. I just moved it. It's not really an increase, but it is an increase, if you understand what I'm saying. Cemetery maintenance, that's the 5,000 that I took out and moved into the government buildings maintenance line. So it's really a wash, it's not an increase or a decrease. Equipment maintenance is $1,000. This allows the department to maintain its equipment. Again, the lawnmowers, the weed whackers, the pickup truck if it has to have some work on it, any power tools that they use, or any other type of equipment that might need some type of maintenance. Equipment purchase. This was decreased, $5,600. That $6,600 is we bought a zero-turn mower, and we don't need that kind of money, so we decreased that $5,600. We don't need to buy another one right now. Equipment lease is $500. This has no change. This line just pays for different things, like if we needed to rent something for the town hall. We had a flood, or we needed to dry out, or if we had to go someplace and rent something for any other building, whether it be a generator or whatever the case may be, there's money right there that we could go rent something for a week or whatever we have to do. And we ran into that once, but we didn't have any lease line, and we needed I think get a generator or something during an ice storm, and so we just kinda took the money from someplace else. Miscellaneous is $1. That just pays for items that are not planned. Again, for transparency, if there's something that doesn't fit in another line, I throw it in miscellaneous so you can see it, so you know that we did something.
Mm-hmm.
So the current 2020 budget was $193,621. Proposed 2021 budget is $197,354, an increase of $3,733, and that is about, I think, 2%. Is that 2%? 2% increase. So the department's total request budget for 2021 is $197,354. It's an increase of $37,24. The entire budget increase is 2% over 2020's default. With this year's budget, we've tried to stay as close to 0% increase as possible, but we need to adjust the salary lines to reflect the raises given in 2019 that couldn't be put in the 2020 default budget. This budget also reflects step increases for the department. Any questions?
Just so you know, I have to leave at 7:25, so you're gonna have to, when he's done, you just adjourn the meeting. I was just telling Matt, unfortunately, I have to leave at 7:25, but Matt will adjourn the meeting.
This one's probably the most important for you.
Yeah, sure, go
I'll
ahead.
try to get through it as quickly as I
Yeah,
can.
yeah, no, don't rush. I understand them all anyways. We're really doing this for Matt and
Okay.
Claudine.
I just need to, I wanna say something about solid waste before you go, though, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so highway department, 2021 proposed budget. Here you can see that 46.5% is salary, 16% is operating supplies, and so forth and so on down the line. And it kind of budgets everything out. But the point is to show that, you know, almost half of our budget is salary. So full-time salary. Requested is $334,196. The default was $293,142. And again, this is a $41,054 increase, but this goes back to the raises again. We got raises that we couldn't absorb last year, any of it. And we're trying to absorb it this year plus another step increase, so it's kind of double jeopardy. And it also covers $48,000 in overtime. Based upon the data that we keep, we average, you know, around 32 events. I call an event anything that we get called in to go out and have to salt sand or to plow. Whether it's a weekend or a weekday or a weeknight or whatever it is, we keep track of that. And we average about 240 hours of overtime on an average year. Alright, so it's right there. And so anyway, the increase is $41,054 based upon, again, the salary increases in 2019 that we couldn't reflect in the default budget. Here's a breakdown of the highway crew. These are the top 4 are employees that are here. The bottom 2, we don't have those positions filled. And you can see, again, it's broke down from January 1st through June 31st of their current rate, the start rate, and then the new rate, if the budget passes and they get a step increase, July 1st through December 31st, with a total at the end, plus the $48,000 in overtime brings you to $334,195.56. Any questions on any of that?
But, so, to be transparent, we did give raises, not the whole board, I was on the board, but we eliminated a position.
You didn't eliminate it, you just told me not to hire.
Right, well, I mean,
So are you still funding that then?
That's funding those 2 open positions, the one that we currently have posted to hire and the one they told me to wait on.
you know, we more or less, for me, I was under the interpretation that there was gonna be a person eliminated, because that's the reason why
No,
we gave,
I believe we just froze the position,
Yes.
but
Right, the direction that I got from the board was not to hire that one position for this year.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know where the budget was going, and I agreed during the beginning of the year to say, look, if there's a default budget, I'll not hire that one position until we figure out what we're gonna do. So that's why that one's not been posted, that one's been sitting there all year. And it's obvious that we're using it to absorb those raises that we got in 2019. I mean, that's
Right.
what you're doing.
well, that was the whole idea behind it.
Right. But we were gonna come back to the fact that this is what you need for people. Are you gonna, again, we go back to what we talked about a few minutes ago. If that's what you wanna do, and you gotta get a plan, you gotta tell me what you want. What do you want? You know, do you wanna cut back employees? It's just gonna cut back. Things ain't gonna get done quite as quickly. Might take longer, might pay more overtime on the other end, but if that's what you wanna do, you gotta figure it out,
Well, I was under the,
so.
I was under the,
But I'd rather not sit here and take my whole department and get, you know, a plan for when it's an overall budget,
Mhm.
because I shouldn't have to take the full hit for everybody.
no, I agree,
Well,
but we'll talk about it more.
Right. Administrative assistant, current 20,648, proposed 25,792, increase of 5,144. Again, it's reflecting a raise. It's not reflecting anything else with a step plan. It's 25 hours a week. Director salary, 67,429. Proposed 72,133. Okay.
Mhm.
FICA is just showing again the step and the raises that we're trying to absorb, and that's an increase of 3155. Medicare the same, 1,038 increase over last year, due to the step plan and the increases. Training, I level funded it, no change, 1,000. There's not been a lot of training this year because things have been closed for COVID, so we haven't really done much of anything. We do as much in-house stuff as we can. Employee testing, this is, I'm budgeting for 2,000, I currently have 1,500, but it's starting to cost a little bit more. Sometimes I get 2 or 3 guys that get chosen, sometimes I get 1. I don't know what it's gonna be from quarter to quarter, until they draw the names or draw the numbers, and then they call me and say, we have 3. So it's, you know, about $100 for the test and $50 for the transportation, and you just gotta plan for what you gotta plan for. So it's just out of my control, I don't have control, it's federal, it's not anything to do with me or the town. And that's for the CDL, to hold a CDL license. Uniforms, 4,700, this includes, uniforms for all 3 departments, and, the $150 for safety shoes. I just keep it in one budget, so I don't have to look at all 3 of them every time I gotta pay a bill. Contract services, the current year is 13,970. Increase to 22,570. And what that is for, let me go to the next slide, is this, these are the services that we contract through the course of the year. We have towing, which we have $4,200 for towing. We have a maintenance program, which is $1,200, that tracks, equipment, repair costs for all town vehicles, fire, police, highway, town hall. Tree removal, we have 2,000 for tree removal, if there's any trees that we can't take down ourselves that we have to contract, that's usually about 2 trees. 2,000 is about 2 trees depending on the size and how much wires are involved. Catch basin cleaning, we've got budgeted for 50, at $3,820, and this is something that we have to do now for the MS4 compliance. So that, we have to report on that and tell them what the percentage was that we've done this year, and so that when we do our annual report. The other thing that is in there that is a little bit more of an increase is the street sweeping. That's another MS4 required service that we have to do, and it's $120 an hour. It takes about 40 hours to sweep the streets. And then the added thing that wasn't in there, I asked for it in 2020, but it didn't get put in the default budget, is the traffic safety lines, and that's the striping of the village of Milton Mills around the schools, Townhouse Road. That would take care of that stuff. again, that's the added line from the in previous years. Questions? Professional services is $1, just to leave it open, no change. Electricity, was at 5,500, we reduced it to 4,000, that's a $1,500 reduction. Again, I think it's because of the lights that we put the LEDs in and they're saving a little bit of money. Heating, another $700 reduction from 3,500 to 2,800, and that's due to the contract that we signed at $1.69. Telephone decreased 264, based on usage, and cell phones are starting to go to a minimum. Supplies is an increase, and it's due to the cost of oil, the cost of grease, the cost of antifreezes that we have. We have several different antifreezes that we use. I have a whole list in the packet. There's a whole list of every single item in that supply line and what it is and what the cost is. And these are my 2020 costs. I tried to keep it flatlined. And it's got cutting edges and bolts for the cutting edges, the paint for the crosswalks, acetylene, penetrating oil, oxygen, everything we need in the shop. Postage is $10, no change. Operating supplies, last year was $123,460. Proposed for 2021 at this time is $117,900. That's a $5,560 decrease, and that's because salt went down last year. I haven't got salt prices yet this year. Andy, I don't know if you're aware of any state bids yet. They usually don't come out until September-ish sometime, so it's gonna be another month and a half before I know.
Yeah, none of our bonds are
I don't
full.
know if it's gonna go up or down. I don't even have a feel for it. It could go up $5 or $6 a ton, it could go down. That number could change based upon what this contract is. I'm hoping it's gonna stay the same or go down, but I don't know. So with the current price that we paid last year, that would be our number. If it goes up, then I'll have to adjust that number for the contract. Vehicle fuel, again, I went up $1,500 again because of the amount of plowing that we did with pickup trucks last year. We just used a lot, and I think it's even getting close to being spent this year. I think with like 2,000 left or something. Diesel fuel I left the same. Again, I'm not sure. I can't get a good handle because the trucks have been in the shop more than they've been out of the shop. Equipment maintenance. Last year's default was 20,000. I'm proposing 25,000. That's a $5,000 increase. Now this line allows the department to maintain all the trucks and equipment for the whole highway department, including the loader, everything. And the increase is due to our 2012 truck. The extended warranty expires. So anything that happens to that truck from this point forward, we can't get taken care of for free. We're gonna have to pay for it. So I allowed for that in that. Now the other 3 trucks that we're leasing that are under the lease agreement, they're covered with an extended warranty until the end of the lease. So that's a blessing, because they've spent a lot of money on those trucks. A lot of money. And they pay for the towing when they have to go down there. They pay for everything. We don't pay for nothing. So the smartest thing I did was get that extended warranty for $4,500 because it paid for itself. Equipment purchase, $500. There's no change in that. And that's just in case we get something that comes in that need a specialty tool or a replacement tool for something, that we have some money there that we can get one. We had an instance where the torque on some of these new vehicles on the wheels, you have to have a torque bar thing that goes on, I don't know exactly what it's called, I'm not a mechanic. It goes on there and it torques the tires at the exact torque that it's supposed to be, and they're required to be used on those wheels. So we had to do some of that stuff, so that's what that's there for, in case we got anything special that we need to get or replace with something. Equipment lease is $1, no change. Membership and dues went from $1 to $250, that's a $249 increase, and, we have to pay for a subscription now to drug testing. We have a prescription for mutual aid and Road Agents Association, and the Road Agents Association helps us get training. And, mutual aid is with all the towns in the state of New Hampshire. If we had a disaster and we needed help, I can call and get help from other towns. They'll send equipment, whatever we need. And the drug testing is self-explanatory. Miscellaneous is $1. Again, that's a line that I keep open in case something is unplanned. I can show it in that line. Total budget from, default budget for 2020 was $651,933. My request is $719,761. Total increase of $68,828. It's a 10.5% increase. And again, I don't wanna keep harping on it, but most of this is due to the raises that we got, and we're just trying to get these numbers caught up. If you look at the rest of the lines, there's not a whole lot of increase in the rest of the budget. I can get this in for Andy before he takes off. Okay, so I know you gotta leave, Andy, in a few minutes. So
Yeah.
what I've been working on with solid waste is I've had a meeting with, Waste Management.
Mm-hmm.
We need, at the end of the year, to, sign a new contract for tipping fees at Waste Management, and there's an increase. And, the contract is here, I've given it to Ernie. I'd like you guys to take a look at it, and I'd be glad to, sit down with you or whatever, or sit with Ernie, or however you wanna do it, but I tried to negotiate a number, and there's absolutely no way they're gonna move on any numbers. You're gonna pay what the
Yeah, no,
what
they
the
have you,
CPI is,
yeah,
at least the CPI or a 3.5% increase. So we went from, a current rate of $90.13 for MSW to $92.83. So starting January 1st, I'm paying $92.83.
mm-hmm,
Also, on our bulky waste, it's $93.52 now, we're going to $96.33. There's no way to, stop it. So we're looking at a cost of tipping MSW and bulky waste of $82,795 starting January 1st. And the other information that he gave me that I wasn't aware of was that they're only licensed to operate turnkey until 2034, so you got 14 years unless something happens. After that 14 years, it's gonna be a whole different ballgame here. We're probably gonna be sending stuff to the Midwest, which is, our costs are gonna go through the roof. When turnkey closes, the cost of trash in this town's gonna go up.
Mhm.
Unless something comes around in the meantime to help us later on, cause it's probably gonna go by rail, and it's gonna cost. So, what they did was, they extended this, the same contract, but changed the numbers starting in, 2021. I don't see that we have a choice, I mean, we gotta
Yeah.
take it somewhere. It's the only place around here.
yep, no,
So, this just needs to be signed so that I can sign it and give it back to them. So I
Okay.
wanted you to understand that that's what's going on with this right here.
okay,
And also in the budget, and I'll give this back to Ernie, also in the budget, we have to, start, budgeting for, paper and co-mingles. Paper was up to $80 a ton to get rid of it. Paper was a source of income for our revolving account at one point.
Mm.
And it hasn't been for a long time, and we've been paying out of the revolving account. And since we've been doing that, we've been taking a hit, and it's going down. The revolving account is not even holding steady. It's starting to deplete, and if we continue that way, we're not gonna have a revolving account anymore. So the cost of paper is gonna reflect in this budget when you look at these budget numbers, and I'll talk about that more when I get to that line, but I'm just I'm saying this for Andy's sake.
Mm-hmm.
And then commingles are anywhere from $115 a ton to get rid of to $140, depending on where you market them at. I said to him, I said, well, we ought to just throw them in the landfill, and he said, yeah, but if you do that, my 14 years gets used up quicker. If everybody starts doing that, you're gonna pay more in the long run. So, I mean, it's true, it's right, we need to recycle, and we need to do that, but the fact of the matter is that these are costs that we never had before. We never had these before. We were always receiving revenues at some form from these, and it's just now becoming a burden. So anyway, I just wanted you to know that, Andy, before
Okay.
you stepped out.
All right.
That you could see and understand what some of these numbers are gonna reflect.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay?
I appreciate everybody coming in tonight, and you guys will listen to the rest of his budget, and have a good night.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah.
So, solid waste, again, the graph that we have, you can see that disposal is 37.45%, which is the majority of your solid waste budget. Part-time salary is 24%, full-time salary is 23%, and contracted services, let's see, contract services is 4.5%, and diesel's 3.5%, and FICA is about 3%, and then it goes down to under a percent or even 0.5% after that. So the current year for our full-time salary line is $44,282. Proposed salary line for 2021 is $50,568. It's a $6,286 increase. Again, same scenario. Raises were given, it didn't get absorbed in last year's budget, so we're trying to absorb those raises plus step increase for the next year. Plus there's $2,000 in overtime in there, and that covers cleanup after a snowstorm in the winter time. It also is training because they have to go on their day off. The cable transfer station's open, so they go on their day off. So that covers that. Here's the breakdown for the full-time supervisor. It shows his current rate, then it shows the new rate. It shows the January 1st through the June 31st, and it shows July 1st through December 31st with a total, plus the 2,000, and overtime gives you the 50,568. Part-time salary line. This part-time salary line is for 3 part-time employees. It's a 30-hour attendant. It's a 16-hour attendant, which just does Saturdays and Sundays. And it's a 20-hour-a-week truck driver to haul the stuff to wherever it's gonna go. We go as far as Massachusetts to get rid of some of our stuff. If it pays us to go there, then we drive there. Wherever we can save money is where we go. We are a NRRA member, so that we can get the best pricing. We constantly call them almost on a daily basis to find out where's the cheapest place to go, where can we make gains, where are we gonna, whatever it is. Can we get a revenue, do we not get a revenue? And we try to market it as best as we can to keep the cost as minimal as we can, or to get the revenue as high as we can. So this is what it is for the current year for 3 people. For 2020 is 50,840. Proposed is 53,569, an increase of 2,729. Again, the same thing. We're trying to absorb 2 years of raises, is what that shows. There's a breakdown. We've got the truck driver, the solid waste truck driver. His rates, what we pay him the first half of the year, if he gets a step increase, what we pay him the second half of the year, what his total is for the year, and then it breaks down to 16-hour solid waste attendant and a 30-hour solid waste attendant. And there's no overtime for those part-time people. FICA is an increase of $5.59. That's due to the increase in the STEP plan. The same for Medicare, $130 increase. Training, there's no change in training. This gives us our license fees. We gotta go to a class to maintain our licenses. It pays for that fee to keep our licenses. We have to do so many hours a year in order to keep it. I have to maintain a senior operator's license in order to manage the transfer station. Butch and I both have senior operator's licenses. That's due to the amount of hours that you put in. I got 24 years of training in solid waste, keeping the classes and keeping my license. So I have enough hours to be a senior manager. And so that's what that takes care of. And the cost varies depending on the class. Sometimes we get them free. Sometimes we can use Primex. We do that. If Primex will come out and give us a free class, we take advantage of Primex's free class, and we keep our hours for our license, and we don't pay them to give us a class. So we work it the best we can. Uniforms, $600. That provides the employees safety shoes. That's $150 per person. Contract services, there's no change. We kept that, and what this line is for is to for services that are required by the state to monitor our air and our water and any gases over the cap. That's mainly what they come in, they check the cap. We have to have 2 inspections a year, and they constantly come in. I think it's every quarter. They come in and they take air samples and water samples and whatever they do, and if there's a problem, they tell us. But everything's been pretty good for the whole time I've been here, so no change in that. Disposal. Now this is where I was talking about the paper and the commingle. And obviously the tipping fees are gonna increase starting January 1st. So you got a 3.5% increase starting January 1st on your tipping fees, plus you have to try to absorb the cost of getting rid of your paper and your commingles. And the best I could do to come up with the number, I went from $79,000 to $81,079, which is a $2,079 increase, is I took the low and I took the high that we paid over the year, and I took the average cost. So if it was nothing to get rid of and it was $100 at the most to get rid of at one point in time, I used $50. I can't tell you what the cost of these things are gonna be because the price changes week to week. It could be paper, to dispose of paper today, it could be $100 today, next week it could be $15. I just don't, there's just no way.
Do you know
control.
why? Like, how come they?
It's just whatever the demand is.
Okay.
And then with China, China used to take all the stuff, and they're not taking anything. And I think India is now starting to get into that, but they won't take it unless it's absolutely clean. So they'll send it back. So it's just a huge cost, and you got to handle it a lot in order to make it what they want. Because if we handle it here, they don't have to handle it there, and they're going to make the money. So it's just what it is. I can't control it. It's out of my control. The only thing we can do is market by calling and saying where can we go, what's available to us, and that's what we do. And we just do the best we can and get the cheapest we can out of anything that we got going on. There's nothing else I can say about it. I mean, I don't control that. It's just something that you're gonna pay, no matter what. It doesn't matter whether this budget passes or whether it doesn't pass. Those costs are what you're gonna have at the end of the year. There's no way out of it, unless the market changes and we start getting revenues. I don't see a way out of it. Rental, we leave open for $1. And anything you see in this solid waste budget that just says $1, the line is open so that it can be used. But the money to pay for any one of those lines usually comes out of the revolving account. So if we had to rent something up there, it comes out of revolving account. Hazardous waste removal is $1 in case somebody slips something in, which has happened a couple of times on us, like asbestos or something that's hazardous. The state usually comes in, shuts it down, it's money. You gotta get rid of it. So we put $1 in there to keep it open, but if we have to, we go into the revolving account, or if it's a major thing, then I'll be coming before you and saying, look, we got a serious situation here, how are we gonna handle it? We don't have the money to handle it. So we just keep that open that way. Electricity, no change, cause we don't have any LED lights up there, so we just kinda level funded that one. Heat, no change, doesn't cost too much to heat that, it's about $500. Telephone increased a little bit, and I just think it's due to the amount of time that credit cards, might be increasing, and people are not using cash as much, and so you have to pay for the data that you use. Supplies, we decreased it. We took a list of what we thought we needed and got prices on what we thought we needed, so we was able to drop that by $854. That line, what that supply line is for like receipt books and markers and scrapers and some filters and different things like that doesn't, it's not a lot of stuff. Anything that we don't have budgeted anywhere else, we put in the supply line. Postage is $10. Operating supplies is $1, again, comes out of revolving account. If we have to do something, like our hydraulic oil that we put into our compactors, we change that once a year. We buy 2 55-gallon drums or a 55-gallon drum, comes out of revolving account. That pays for all that stuff. We don't take that out of the budget anywhere. Vehicle fuel, $8,000, no change, and we just don't know where we're gonna travel. We go to Massachusetts a lot, it'll take a little more. If we don't go as much, it'll take a little less. So we just left that level funded. Building maintenance, $1. Equipment maintenance, $1. Again, anything that happens to any equipment, including the roll-off truck, gets paid for out of the revolving account. Nothing comes out of this budget that goes into any maintenance for any of that equipment, not back. Nothing. Equipment purchase the same way. If something needs to be purchased, a new hydraulic cylinder or whatever we need, a hose or whatever, it comes out of revolving account. Same with equipment lease, revolving account. Permits and fees, revolving account. Miscellaneous, it's just that line open in case there's something not planned, we can show it there and you can see it. So the total budget for 2020 was $205,532. Proposed is $216,503 with a $10,971 increase. The solid waste department's total requested budget was $216,503 with the $10,971 increase. The entire budget increase is 5% increase over 2020 default budget. With this year's budget, we've tried to stay as close to zero as we possibly can, but we need to adjust the salary lines again to reflect the raises given in 2019 that couldn't be put in the 2020 default budget. This budget also reflects step increases for the department. It also reflects the cost of your tipping fees for your paper, for your commingles, and your increases in your tipping fees at waste management starting January 1st. Any questions on anything?
I'm good.
No, thank you very much.
One other thing before I go, I kind of wish Andy was here, and I'm gonna do this for your benefit.
Okay.
Because I did a workshop with the Board of Selectmen, a few months ago to increase the, fees at the transfer station. Here's a list of the old fees. Here's a list of the new fees. And here's a list of what we pay for some things. Here's the data that we collect over the years. And prices are going up on our tipping fees. For example, our construction debris and our bulky debris, you saw the increase on that. And that increase on the bulky is not reflected in the budget. But that increase is gonna be hit on the revolving account, which we need to adjust our fees on what we're charging to bring it in. And we suggested a 2-cent increase on the scales to offset the 3.5% increase that we're getting. And that also, that out of that 10 cents, part of that money helps maintain our truck, you know, so that we can haul. It kind of pays for your tipping fee and your cost to run your truck, so that you have money to fix it if it breaks. You can't just kind of level fund it to take care of the tipping fees and not have nothing come in and take care of the truck. And you know, Matt, you got a copy of that stuff when I did that. So what I'm waiting on, and it's been quite a while, is I need a public hearing to adjust these fees, because we continue to take a loss.
Right.
And we need to, and it's all right there. And if you have any questions, please feel free to call me. I'd be glad to explain things to you when we've got more time.
Yep.
But I think you need to see that, and you need to know before you walk into a public hearing and have an idea of what we're trying to talk about and what's really going on.
Okay,
Okay?
definitely, yep,
Thank you.
thank you.
I'll take that drive over.
A lot to cover.
Uh,
It's a lot to cover.
You take anything else, you take care of that. Thank you.
Thank you,
Good night.
thank you very much.
Any comments? Administrator?
You know, I think, as you can see, it's not gonna be an easy job to, have these budgets come in at the default. I mean, it's gonna come in at the default budget, whether it's budgeted that way or not. But I think Pat's absolutely right, is that we're gonna have to put the nose to the grindstone and figure out what it is that you wanna see cut, because, you know, obviously those raises that have been given, since, I think it was, 2018 was the last time you had a budget that wasn't a default budget. Anything that was given as a raise hasn't been able to be included in the default budget, so that's why you have that large amount of money that, is trying to be absorbed in the budget at this point, or people aren't having a good, or easy time trying to figure out how to do that. But I think, it's gonna take some looking at these individual items, and again, as Pat did say, you're gonna have to make some decisions on what you wanna see cut as services, because to come in with another default budget, you're gonna have to. There's not gonna be a choice.
Yep. What's next? Selectmen comments? Do you have any?
I'm good, thank you.
I don't have anything. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn unless I'm missing anything, Ernie. I didn't think so.
Motion to adjourn?
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
And aye.